Hi, everyone. I hope that you are having a fantastic day. I wanted to record this video and talk a little bit about what you're supposed to do for the rest of your term project. So you guys submitted your introduction and background, which was basically a small part of your project last week. By the way, I'm still grading. I will get back to you, so you should be able to see your grades very soon on the gradebook. Just be patient with me. It takes time to give you feedback and everything, so just be patient with me. I'm in the process of grading. I just wanted to remind you what I posted on D12 under content tab. If you go to the term project, basically, folder or the module that I have here, I tried to explain the rubric for the project. So you guys already finished your topic, which was, I think, due at the beginning of the semester, and you gave me your week 8 assignment. So you should basically work on the rest of your project, and I'm going actually to share what I'm expecting you basically to do after this part of your project. And remember that you are doing a presentation for me. You are going to make a PowerPoint. Please go back and watch the video that I shared at the beginning of the semester about the term project. I explained actually more in that video. In this project, I just want to explain how you should format basically your PowerPoints and your presentations. Okay, you are submitting your PowerPoints, you're submitting your videos for your presentations. I need to see your face while you are recording yourself for your presentations. Remember, it should not just be slides and your voice. I have to see your face when you are doing your presentation and you are making that video. I just wanted to mention that before I forget. So in the week 8 assignment, you guys gave me introduction and background. You submitted at least 5 sources. Remember that when you are giving me your PowerPoints and when you are doing your presentation, I should still see those five sources. I want to see more than 5 because when you are completing your project, I'm pretty sure that you will read more articles, more paper, and more news. So I want you to add everything to that. And remember that your sources should be scientific sources. So YouTube, Wikipedia, Investopedia, they are not scientific sources. What I mean by sources are peer-reviewed articles and journals. You can find plenty of them on Lone Star website. So you can definitely take the advantage of the database we have in the library. Those are the acceptable sources for your project. If you want to use news, it's okay with me. But remember that there are so many wrong information out there. So please fact check your news. I do not accept every single news that you see. So do not use everything. Again, make sure that they are legit. They're reporting correct information. If you are working with data or whatnot, I'm going to show you the sources that you can use for your project. And remember that you are not emailing me anything. You are going to submit everything as you did for your week 8. You will go to course activities, you click on assignment, and there is a Dropbox there that you can upload your presentations and also your videos at the end. And this is the deadline. The deadline for your projects are 27th of April. So and remember, please utilize all the sources that I shared with you here, explaining basically how you should do your presentations, how we write. I know you are not writing a formal paper for this class, but you can definitely use the sources that I shared here in terms of how you should format at least your sentences on the slides that you are submitting at the end. But let me show you this. So basically, for any research paper, in your case, of course, research presentation that you are going to do, these are the steps that we take in economic, at least research papers and research presentations. You already gave me your research question. You gave me your sources. You submitted your introduction and background last week. These are the other things that I need to see in your PowerPoints. So you guys are also going to work on your literature review. Literature review is a little bit different than summarizing your sources. So going back to how basically you are going to find those scientific sources. Again, I definitely recommend you guys to use library, JSTOR, Google Scholars. These are only the reliable sources that you can find those scientific sources that I'm talking about. When you basically find your sources, you can start working on step number 3, which is literature review. Literature review basically is where you are going to read your sources and figure out basically how those sources are useful for your topic, for your research, okay? You are going to analyze the sources that you are reading. I don't want you to just give me the summary of the paper that you are using for your project. You should be able to explain how those papers are helping you to complete your project, or how relevant they are to your project, or what are the gaps between these papers and the work that other people have done in your field and with what you are doing right now. Okay. So I want you to have at least one slide talking about literature review, what others did in your research or research area, I should say. What are the gaps that you see between what has been done and what you are doing? And criticize the papers that you use, those sources that you use, okay? And again, make sure that you draw a connection between your sources with your project, with your research. That's the idea of doing literature review. So I need to see at least one slide. 1 to 2 would be fantastic, okay? Again, this is not about summarizing your sources. You can definitely give me a brief information about the paper that you use, but I want you to basically criticize the paper. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? And again, how you used it in your project, okay? Because the idea of literature review is seeing and getting ideas from other people's work, making sure that you are using reliable sources to conduct your project, and you are able to analyze those projects, those papers, okay, and other people research. If relevant to your topic, we're going to move to step number 4. Not everybody might use data and statistics. Many of you are doing, by the way. But if you are not using a data collection, you can skip step number 4 and just move on to 5. But if you are using data, these are reliable sources that we have, but honestly, these data sources that I cited here, they're mainly useful in macroeconomics. You can still get some information from, for instance, Fred or Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS, for also microeconomics, especially if you are focusing on cities or specific states, and you are looking for specific data regarding to those states or cities. I remember that someone had inflation rate and comparing inflation rate in Houston with another city, as far as I remember, in one of my classes. So you can use, in that case, that student can use Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS, or Fred. Fred is Federal Reserve website. If you are using, if you're doing something else, which again requires data collection, and you cannot find it here and you're not sure about that database, please feel free to email me. I can check if that website is legitimate or not. If you are focusing on a specific industry, you might be able to see and find related data. by, again, just searching them. Like, let's say you are doing agriculture. So you can probably go to Department of Agriculture in United States and find the information that you're looking for. So not everybody can use basically these sources that I have here, okay? You might not be able to find everything here, and you might look into other sources. But if you are not certain about the legitimacy of those sources, please feel free to email me. Okay, and make sure that you are also telling me the variables, the economic variables and data that you're looking for in your email. I don't want to go back to your intro and read everything. I teach multiple classes, so it takes time. Okay, that's about data. If again you do not have data, you can move to step number 5, which is analysis. But for those of you who are doing data collection and analysis basically can be combined. So you can have one slide talking about your sources for the data, and the very next one can be your analysis, okay? If you do have any charts, if you have any graphs that you are using for your project, and remember, you are not necessarily coming up with your own tables, with your own charts. You can get those information from your sources that you are discussing in chapter 3. You can just copy and paste them basically from your sources. But please make sure that when you are recording your videos for your presentation, you are explaining them. Don't just show me a graph and skip it. Why you are using that graph? What does that graph or chart mean? How it's related to your research, to your project. So make sure you elaborate on your charts. But any data, any chart, they all go to analysis. Okay, and you are using, remember that data collection to provide information in your analysis. But what do we typically put in analysis? Analysis should be the important and the longest part of your project. Okay. Analysis is the place that we find answers to the research question that we raised in step number 1. Okay. So you are going to test your hypothesis if you had any in step 1. You are going to provide all the answers to your research question in your analysis. So your analysis should be the biggest part of your project, and it should be the most important part of your project. So you are going to spend good amount of time when you are researching your project, your research question, to provide answers to these questions. So you are going to spend good amount of time basically writing your analysis, okay? If you had any type of limitations in your project, this is the place that you want to mention that. Let's say you are working with data and some years of data were missing. That's a type of limitation that you had. Or let's say you are researching on AI. AI is still brand new. You might not be able to find many things about AI, and I don't know, whatever you are doing in your research project, that's the limitation that you had. So this is where you want to explain that. If there is any future research that can be done that is related again to your project, this is the place that you want to explain. At the end of your analysis, I want you to have a conclusion, basically summarizing everything, and then you can move on. You can skip, by the way, the abstracts part. Abstract is just for papers. You do not have an abstract for your presentation. I apologize for that. I had to delete that part. So abstract doesn't apply to your projects, to your presentations. It's just for research papers, so you can skip that part. So you need to have a conclusion at the end of your analysis, okay? In your conclusion, I want you to basically wrap up your project, okay? Give us the essence of your results and your findings, and then you are going to have your last slide, which is your citation. Remember, citation, your sources should be your last slide, or the slide before the last. Some students like to put thank you at the end, so thank you would be the last slide. So just make sure that you have your citation at towards the end of your project, and then you are basically done. Okay. And again, the final paper doesn't apply to you because this semester, I think I told you at the beginning of this spring semester that I'm trying something new. Instead of writing paper, I'm asking my students to record themselves and do a presentation instead of just giving me a paper. With AI and everything, I rather see your faces and basically how you present your projects. Okay. So let me just summarize what I just said. And I always get this question, and I explained it probably in my previous video. So I apologize if I'm repeating again. Remember, the number of the slides that you should have, it depends on you and your project and how many minutes you want to talk over each slide. So you have 10 to 15 minutes for your presentation. So you should have at least about 15, slides, let's say, or 12 slides, because you want to talk 1 to 2 minutes over each slide, not probably your citation. I don't want you to talk about your citation. And your probably your thank you one at the end, right? So it really, really depends on how much your analysis is, how you want to talk over each slide. So I'm not really putting any limitation for that, but roughly you should have between at least 12, I want to say 12, 13 slides, and then 1 to 2 minutes talking over each one of them, if it makes sense. Your very first slide should be your name, your class information, microeconomics with your section. You can find your section when you log into your D2L, and the title of your project. That should be your first one. Try to be creative, have pictures, have, I don't know, for your analysis, for instance, charts. Just don't write and everything in plain English, and try not to put too much information on your slides, honestly. Try to put less but talk more on each slide. Okay. Your second slide should be your research question. What is the purpose of your project? Why you are doing your project? Explain your research question. Your next slide should be introduction, which you already did. In your introduction, you are also going to talk about a little bit of a background. This is not a history class. Remember, I do not want you to give me a story about your project. Keep it short. The background should be very, very short. If you're doing, for instance, COVID, anything during COVID time, don't explain what COVID is. Everybody knows what COVID is. So keep the background part short, but talk about the methodology. How are you going to conduct, or how did you, that's when you're done with your project, how you conducted your project. Okay, you already did the intro, so you can definitely go back and use your introduction, summarize it, and you can add it to your slides. Okay. And by methodology, I mean, what were the tools that you used? Did you use, for instance, mathematical models? Did you use your literature review? Did you use other people's work to give answers to your research question? That will be your methodology. Did you use regression models? Those are your methodology. Okay. Then you will talk about your literature review, your analysis and data collection, conclusion, and then you are putting your citations and you are done. Okay. So hopefully you find this video helpful. I just wanted to make sure you know how you are going to move forward. Again, thanks for being patient as I'm grading your introduction and background that you submitted last week. You will definitely hear back from me soon, but you have about 27 days. We're almost done with March. So you have 27 days to complete your project, submitting your presentations and also your videos. And if you have any question, let me know. I'm very, very excited to see basically how these presentations are looking like at the end. I hope that you have fun with it. And again, I'm here to help you. Let me know if you have any question. Have a great day and take care.